Washington Journal continues.
Well, we'd like to welcome back to the Washington Journal table Congressman Dennis Kucinich, a Democrat of Ohio. Congressman, you've had a pretty good week politically this week, haven't you?
Well, it's always an honor to serve, Peter.
We started with the PATRIOT Act vote, and you basically won.
Well, the vote was put under suspension. And I think that you have a number of Tea Party Republicans who are very serious about standing up for the Constitution. And I made the case, and I'm not the only one over the years who's made the case, that the PATRIOT Act raises serious questions about violations of freedom of speech, right of association, violation of Fourth Amendment, right to be free from an unreasonable search and seizure. And it was refreshing to see the kind of coalition that was put together. It may be just for that one bill, but you know what? It's a good sign because it means that in Washington we're listening to people's plea that we get beyond partisanship and find ways of working together on matters that concern the American people.
Well, all morning here in the Washington Journal, we've been talking about the budget season. You've been through a couple of these. Do you see anything new in the air in this budget season?
Sure. Of course. I mean, there's a very serious attempt to cut spending. But we have to look at what the proposals are. Cuts to NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. That's like throwing away your seed corn. NASA helps to create the jobs of the future. They're incubators of technology. You start cutting at NASA, you're basically telling all those scientists and technical geniuses who we employ, we don't need you. And then we're going to get the jobs from where? China. Cuts to high-speed rail. We have this huge understanding in our society that we have a problem with consumption of energy. Well, the whole idea about high-speed rail is it saves energy, and it's an efficient way of getting around. Anybody who's ever been to Europe knows what I'm talking about. Well, there's cuts to high-speed rail. There's cuts to women and infant care program, which basically takes care of poor children and their moms. I mean, we have to start looking at where the cuts are. On the other hand, you can't touch that sacred cow of the Pentagon. They're going to just keep getting bigger and bigger. Why?
What about entitlement reform? Are you willing to look at that?
Well, you know, by entitlement, if you mean cutting Social Security benefits, not a chance. Privatizing Social Security, like we want to put Social Security in the hands of Wall Street? Are you kidding me? Could you imagine what it would have been like a couple of years ago if the American people had put their Social Security money in the market through legislation, and then everything collapses and people lose everything they ever hoped to spend the rest of their lives on? I think keep Wall Street away from Social Security. Make sure that people have the adequate health care in their senior years. I favor Medicare for all, not just for those who are seniors. So no privatization of Social Security, no vouchers for Medicare. The government does have a salutary role in people's lives, and to secure their retirement, which goes back to the Social Security Act during the Roosevelt era, and to have health care. I think those are things that people in a democratic society not only have a right to expect, but it helps to keep the society together.
Why didn't Cleveland get the Democratic National Convention?
I think it comes down to hotel rooms more than anything, but they could have made it happen. You know, let's go into the politics of it. Ohio was a tough place for Democrats in 2010. The Republicans were very strong in Ohio in 2010. They took all the constitutional offices in the state. They carried the U.S. Senate seat. They took there was a turnover of 5 seats in the House. They took the state legislature. So it may be that the administration is looking towards North Carolina as perhaps a place to plant the flag in the South, and knowing that Ohio is going to be a tough haul. I hope they're not giving up on Ohio, because I wouldn't give up on Ohio. I think you have to look at the mistake that the Gore campaign made in the year 2000. They wrote off Ohio, and even without a campaign, pulled within a few points. That could have made the difference in the outcome of the presidency in the year 2000. Don't give up on Ohio.
Well, View tweets 2009 asked the question, are you running for president?
No, I'm not. No,
All done?
I'm hopeful to run. I intend to run for re-election in the House. The only thing is, Peter, I don't know where my district is going to be because there is a congressional redistricting. Ohio is going to lose 2 seats. Northern Ohio has been where the epicenter of population loss has occurred. So I've told my supporters, let's get ready for an election in 2012. Let's organize, let's raise funds, but I can't tell you where that district's going to be.
So you could potentially be redistricted out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm aware of that.
And will you move if you have to?
I intend to stay in Congress. So, you know, the chances are my district, as you put, I could be redistricted out. It could be dramatically changed, dismantled, whatever. I'm not going to wait until the moment when somebody says, here's the map, Dennis. Now what do we do? No, I'm organizing now. I'm getting ready for what I think is an inevitable series of events that will take place once a map is presented. And that will mean that if I have to move, well, you know, I'll live wherever my district is, but I don't know where the district is yet.
When will we know what the districts are in Ohio?
In Ohio, my guess is it's probably going to be towards the end of the year. The Republicans who control the redistricting in the Ohio legislature, I think, are likely to come up with a map by the end of the year. I'm not complaining about this process. It's a political reality, and I'll not just live with it, but I will look at it as an opportunity to continue to be of service somewhere. I'm hopeful I'll be able to stay in Cleveland. That's my home. That's where I've spent my life in service. But we'll see how it works out. I don't get up in the morning worrying about what might happen. I try to spend my day making things happen. So we'll see what happens.
Congressman Kucinich, how is President Obama doing?
Well, I'd like to see him more active in creating jobs. And to me, it's about the economy. We have close to 15 million Americans who are out of work and another more than 10 million Americans who are underemployed. And frankly, when the private sector doesn't create the jobs, and Peter, you know, the private sector famously has been responsible for the massive unemployment we have because they cut jobs and their stock goes up. Private sector doesn't create the jobs. The government has a moral responsibility to get people back to work. And we have enough work to do. We could rebuild America. We have trillions of dollars in capital needs that haven't been met that states can't afford to pay for and cities can't afford to pay for. We could rebuild America, our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our sewer systems. But there's this dedication to reducing spending at a time when we need to spend. We need to prime the pump of the economy. So our economic policies, frankly, looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's from the Midwest, where we've had massive job loss, our economic policies are upside down. Our trade policies are upside down. We are not requiring businesses to invest money when they get big breaks. There's some real problems in this economy, and the Obama administration has not done enough.
Do you think it would be healthy for the Democratic Party to have a primary for president
Absolutely,
in 2012?
Sure. Of course. I think primaries can have the opportunity of raising the issues and make the Democratic candidate a stronger candidate. I think it's safe to predict that President Obama will continue to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. But he can be a stronger nominee if he receives a strong challenge in a primary.
If not you, then whom?
Well, you know, that's not up to me to say. I'm focusing on being reelected to the House of Representatives, and you know, I'm very interested in making sure that creation of jobs, health care for all, protection of Social Security and Medicare, those things are fundamental, and education. So those are issues that certainly should be brought up in primaries. And finally, getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan. We have to stop roaming the world looking for dragons to slay. We've got things to take care of right here at home, and I hope that President Obama starts focusing on our domestic economy and starts really, maybe we need to take the keys of the economy away from Wall Street for a while.
Finally, before we go to